In a classroom where prejudice met its match, one teacher's discrimination collides with the ultimate plot twist. Her target is the principal's daughter. The morning sun filtered through the windows of room 237 at Franklin High School, casting long shadows across the freshly waxed floors. Students shuffled into their seats, the usual morning chatter filling the air. Maya Richardson sat quietly in the third row, her focus trained on the advanced physics textbook in front of her. At 16, she carried herself with a quiet confidence that some teachers found admirable, and others, like Ms. Karen Winters, found threatening. Ms. Winters swept into the classroom with her usual air of superiority, her heels clicking against the linoleum floor. Her eyes narrowed as they landed on Maya, a subtle gesture that hadn't gone unnoticed by the other students. Taking attendance, she paused deliberately at Maya's name, looking up with feigned concern. Maya Richardson. Late again, I see. Maya looked up from her book, confusion evident on her face. Miss Winters, I've been here the whole time. I was actually early today. The teacher's dismissal was swift and cutting. Well, I didn't see you, and please raise your hand before speaking in my class. The classroom fell into an uncomfortable silence, broken only by a whispered observation from one student to another. But she never makes anyone else raise their hand. The racial undertones of Ms. Winters's behavior weren't lost on anyone present. As the college preparation discussion began, Ms. Winters paced the classroom with practiced authority. Her words, carefully chosen to maintain a veneer of professionalism, carried barbs meant to wound. Standing near Maya's desk, she spoke with artificial sweetness. Some of you will aim for prestigious universities, while others might want to consider more practical options. Community college is nothing to be ashamed of, Maya. Maya's response came with composed dignity. I'm actually applying early to Yale, Ms. Winters. I have a 4.0 GPA. The teacher's condescending laugh echoed through the room. Oh, honey, Yale? Let's be realistic. Those spots are very competitive. The exchange prompted Jessica, Maya's best friend, to speak up in her defense, highlighting Maya's role as a tutor and her academic achievements. But Ms. Winters wasn't finished. The discussion turned to extracurricular activities, with Ms. Winters questioning Maya's decision to join the academic decathlon team. Her words dripped with prejudice as she suggested Maya focus on subjects more suited to your capabilities, even going so far as to suggest the STEP team as a more appropriate activity. The racial stereotyping was blatant now, causing several students to gasp and one to begin recording discreetly on their phone. The revelation unfolded in layers, each moment heavy with tension in room 237 that Wednesday morning. Dr. Marcus Richardson had actually been standing in the doorway for several minutes, his tall frame casting a long shadow into the classroom. He'd been making his usual morning rounds when he'd heard Ms. Winters's voice, carrying that distinct tone he'd unfortunately come to recognize from previous parent complaints. What he hadn't expected was to find that tone directed at his own daughter. The silence that fell over the classroom when he finally spoke was absolute. Even the usual rustling of papers and squeaking of chairs ceased, as if the room itself was holding its breath. Miss Winters, could I have a word with you? Now. His voice carried the particular kind of calm that administrators master over years of handling difficult situations. Level, controlled, but with an undercurrent of steel that was impossible to miss. Several students straightened in their seats, recognizing the gravity in their principal's tone. Ms. Winters's transformation was remarkable to witness. The color drained from her face in stages, first from her cheeks, then from her lips, until she stood there looking almost ghostly under the fluorescent lights. Her usual air of superiority crumbled as realization dawned in her eyes. The connection between Maya Richardson and Dr. Richardson, a connection she should have known about but had clearly never bothered to investigate, hit her with visible force. Her hands, which had been gesturing dismissively just moments before, now fluttered nervously at her sides like trapped birds. The dynamic in the room shifted dramatically as Dr. Richardson stepped fully inside. His presence seemed to fill the space, not through any deliberate intimidation, but through the natural authority he carried. When he addressed Maya as "sweetheart," asking if she was okay, the pieces fell into place for everyone who hadn't already known. Students' eyes widened, and a few whispered, "Oh my God," under their breath. The girl whose academic achievements Ms. Winters had been belittling, whose capabilities she had been questioning, whose very presence she had been dismissing, was the principal's daughter. Maya's response, "I'm fine, Dad. Just another enlightening day of college prep," was delivered with such composed dignity that several students later described it as the most powerful moment of the entire confrontation. She didn't gloat, didn't smile in triumph, but simply sat there, back straight, eyes forward, embodying the very excellence Ms. Winters had been attempting to deny. The irony in her voice was subtle, but devastating, highlighting the absurdity of the situation without descending to the level of mockery. Miss Winters' attempted recovery was painful to witness. "Dad, I had no idea," she stammered, her words trailing off into uncomfortable silence. The statement only served to underscore her failure, not just in this moment, but in her fundamental duties as an educator. Her ignorance of her students' identities and capabilities revealed a pattern of prejudgment that could no longer be ignored or explained away. Dr. Richardson's response was measured but firm. "Clearly, there are many things you had no idea about, Ms. Winters. My office, immediately." He didn't raise his voice, didn't make a scene, but his words carried the weight of imminent consequences. As he dismissed the class to study quietly, the tension in the room began to dissolve, replaced by a sense that they had just witnessed a significant moment of justice in motion. The faces of the students reflected a mix of emotions: satisfaction at seeing discrimination confronted, respect for Maya's dignity, and appreciation for Dr. Richardson's professional handling of the situation. As Ms. Winters followed Dr. Richardson out of the classroom, her heels no longer clicking with their usual confidence, the remaining students exchanged glances that spoke volumes. This wasn't just about a single teacher being caught in the act of discrimination. It was about the exposure of systemic biases that too often went unchallenged. The revelation had done more than just reveal Maya's identity. It had revealed the ugly truth of prejudice and the power of maintaining one's dignity in the face of it. In Dr. Richardson's wood-paneled office, the afternoon light cast warm shadows across the faces of father and daughter. The space, usually a symbol of administrative authority, transformed into a sanctuary for an honest conversation about race, resilience, and responsibility. Maya sat in one of the leather chairs facing her father's desk, her shoulders finally relaxing after holding them straight through the morning's confrontation. This was the first moment she'd allowed herself to feel the full weight of what had transpired. Dr. Richardson watched his daughter with a mixture of pride and profound sadness. As both a father and an educator, he felt the impact of Ms. Winters' actions doubly. "Maya, I'm so sorry you had to experience that," he began, his voice gentle but carrying the weight of understanding. His daughter's response, that she was used to it, but tired of being used to it, struck him like a physical blow. It wasn't just a comment about today's incident. It was a reflection of countless microaggressions and subtle dismissals she'd faced throughout her academic journey. The wheels of justice began turning swiftly. Dr. Richardson's secretary, Janet, efficiently assembled a thick folder of previous complaints against Ms. Winters, incidents that, viewed individually, had been explained away or minimized, but together painted a damning picture of systematic bias. The superintendent and board president were summoned for an emergency meeting, their quick response indicating the gravity with which they viewed the situation. During the following days, the school's administrative machinery moved with unprecedented speed. Miss Winters was placed on immediate administrative leave pending a thorough investigation. The review wasn't limited to just her conduct. It sparked a broader examination of the school's policies regarding bias reporting and professional development. The incident became a catalyst for systemic change, with the board implementing mandatory cultural competency training for all staff members. The academic decathlon team's transition to Mr. Chen's leadership proved transformative. Unlike Ms. Winters, who had used her position as faculty advisor to create barriers, Mr. Chen implemented a purely merit-based selection process. Under his guidance, the team quickly became one of the most diverse in the school's history, with students from various backgrounds contributing their unique perspectives and strengths. Maya's role in these changes was subtle, but significant. Rather than taking satisfaction in Miss Winters' downfall, she channeled her energy into positive action. She worked with the student council to establish a peer mentoring program, helping other students navigate academic challenges and college applications. Her own Yale application became a testament to resilience. In her essay, without mentioning the specific incident, she wrote about the importance of maintaining dignity and excellence in the face of prejudice. The ripple effects extended beyond Franklin High School. Other schools in the district began examining their own policies and practices. Parent groups organized discussions about educational equity, and student organizations became more vocal about their experiences and needs. What had started as one teacher's discriminatory actions had evolved into a community-wide conversation about inclusion and excellence in education. Dr. Richardson's handling of the situation became a case study in effective administrative response to discrimination. He balanced his roles as father and principal masterfully, ensuring that proper procedures were followed while also creating space for necessary institutional change. His approach demonstrated that justice didn't have to mean mere punishment. It could also mean growth, learning, and systematic improvement. As the weeks passed, the atmosphere at Franklin High School shifted subtly but meaningfully. Teachers became more mindful of their interactions with students, not out of fear, but from a genuine desire to create an inclusive learning environment. Students felt more empowered to speak up about their experiences, knowing they would be heard and taken seriously. The incident with Ms. Winters, while painful, had opened the door to honest conversations about race, privilege, and education that had long been overdue. 6 months later, the school gymnasium buzzed with excitement as Maya stood at the podium, wearing her Yale acceptance T-shirt with pride. The academic decathlon team had just won the state championship under her leadership. Her speech was brief, but powerful. Success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. Every single day. Looking out at the crowd, she saw her father beaming with pride, Mr. Chen nodding in approval, and her teammates, a diverse group of students who had become like family, cheering her on. The Yale acceptance letter found its home on the Richardson family fridge, displayed proudly next to a newspaper clipping about the academic decathlon victory. It stood as a testament not just to Maya's academic excellence, but to her resilience in the face of prejudice and the importance of standing up against discrimination in all its forms. The incident with Ms. Winters had become a catalyst for positive change in the school, proving that sometimes the most powerful lessons happen outside the planned curriculum.